Hey everybody, welcome back out. In a few moments, we're going to jump into our Mastermind Monday that we do every week, where we dive into all things sales, marketing, operations, teams, coaching, and maybe just in general, a small business.
Chances are in your business, you're going to face a bunch of problems. And for us, we have scaled from a startup to a multi-million-dollar pressure washing company. And so imagine being able to get all of our problems and our solutions right there in front of you. That's what we're going to be offering here in a moment. And number one is going to be on leadership. And if you aren't growing your leadership and holding yourself accountable for growing as an individual, chances are you're not going to be able to hold your team accountable. And if you don't hold your team accountable, you ain't going to have no team. What's another area that we're going to discuss?
Extremely likely that we jump into sales conversations. We can go over what a normal estimate looks like for us, down to the psychology of why we sell the way we sell. What else?
Yeah, and inside of that sales, you're going to learn that relationships
are the currency of life, baby.
That's right. And then probably an area that I'm going to be able to help a little bit on is inside this conversation called marketing, because ultimately where you are is what everyone sees. So you want to make sure that what everyone sees is something worth buying.
Yeah, you can sell all day long, but if you ain't got no leads, it's a little tougher.
Yeah, so we're going to teach you where the best place to generate leads from, how to get boots to boots on the ground, and also where to spend that precious dollar amount. Should it be Facebook? Should it be Google? Should it be Bing? Should it be, what are those, Angie's List?
Yeah, there's all kinds, and it's ever changing. So we kind of, since we're in an active business now, we kind of float that market with you guys.
Yeah, and then as you scale your business, you're going to have to invite some other team members onto the plane. And so we're also going to be talking about how to invite, how to develop, how to train, how to make sure that they understand what they're supposed to do in order to make the plane stay in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Brady.
I'm Joshua.
And we will see you in a minute. Welcome back to Mastermind Monday. Man, I feel
welcome back
good.
to you.
Yeah, dude, I feel pumped up to be here. I'm running on like 7 hours of sleep over the last 9 days. Who even knows any numbers anymore? But I'm here and I'm happy and I'm excited to be here.
Well, babies are happening. And Brady, you did have a baby since you've been here last. Is that correct?
This is true. I had COVID and then a baby, and they were both very similar in how they impact your energy.
Well, we're not going to show a picture of Rush right now, but if you had to describe
Man, I wish
Rush,
we had one.
If you had to describe him to someone without looking at him, what would be like 2 or 3 words?
Easy, strong like bull. So easy, dude. Strong like bull. This kid came out a whopping 9 pounds. His hands are almost as large as my 2-year-old daughter right now. And that's not actually an exaggeration.
Future Titans player. Future Titans
Yeah,
player.
Derrick Henry is a good 2 words, you know. Just kidding.
Strong like bull.
Just kidding. Strong like bull
I like
is
it.
definitely there. I feel, and he is such a different baby than Ellie was. Like, he doesn't really spit up, which is not something that we know. If you guys have had children, especially if you've had children that spit up, you know that that is just a different difficulty level or just an added thing. So he's been really chill. Even when he's awake, he doesn't really fuss. You know, he'll just sit there with his eyes open and hang out.
You're blessed.
He's a cool baby, man. Yeah,
That's awesome.
he's super cool.
Well,
We're
since-
really thankful.
Yeah, so we know your highlights. Let's go ahead and find out what Josiah and myself, what our walkaways or highlights from this last week.
Yeah, for me, Christmas lights,
Hmm.
for sure. We spent a lot of time doing Christmas lights this past weekend, and it's just been really cool to learn all about these different types of bulbs and different types of fittings, learning about how to install lights on the home that we did it on was like huge. It
Dude,
was like
I saw a picture of that. Did you
three-story-
see a picture of that?
Yeah, I've
several
ran-
$million property. I mean, it was insane,
That thing was huge.
but a ton of fun. We had
Huge.
all of our locations come out and train on installing lights, and so just having all bunch of those.
So some of
types
the pressure
guys.
washing pastors were there too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That is,
And that's what's
awesome.
special is like having all those different types of guys that really, I don't know, they just care about each other, and you're all in the same place. It's just so cool.
Have you ever had like really hardcore FOMO?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry if I
It's
just
like I
created
see
that.
I see those things happening on our Slack channel, and I'm like, feel like I'm missing out.
Well, you did miss out. But
Yeah.
it was.
But now I
worthy
feel
of
like I'm
being
missing
missed.
out right now, not being home with my son. So it's constant FOMO.
He's probably
right
walking right now and
now. I
talking.
think so.
saying
He's going to his
words.
first job. He's going to his first Titans practice.
I'm graduating high school today.
Bye, Dad.
Yeah, so shout out to Jennifer for delivering this
For
this
sure,
baby into
dude.
the world. Things didn't go exactly as smooth as maybe hoped,
For sure.
but Rush is here, and your wife is an absolute
Beast, dude. He gets his strong like bull from her. I'm serious. She's tough, dude. She is wicked tough.
Strong like
I cry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she's tough.
good. Highlight from this past week. I've got maybe 1.5, but I'll just share one. We had our leadership development on Friday, and after the whole thing is over with, we have a new team member who's been working with our Christmas lights. And he basically shared with me at the very end that the thing that's so special about Brown's pressure washing is our culture. And then he shared that he will not forget on Wednesday when they're doing an install on some Christmas lights, that one of our team members, Christian, ends up just stopping with the pizza delivery lady and just prays over her. And man, when I heard that we have team members that are intentionally praying with the pizza delivery lady, I'm like, that is exactly why we exist.
Yeah.
Is not just to make an income, but make an impact wherever we make an income. And we get this minister in the marketplace mindset. And so my shout out is going to be my man, Christian, and then hearing Shane share that story. It blessed me.
That's awesome.
Man, that is absolutely excellent. That is excellent. Guys, thank you for being here. If you're watching on the recap, please feel free to continue to drop comments inside of the comment section. If you're here live and you've got any questions today, whether that be on leadership type stuff, whether that be on, pressure washing, how do you get leads, how do you sell a job, whatever, even if it's off of the topic that we're talking about, please drop that inside of there. And if you have not yet subscribed, don't be a goober and hit the subscribe button.
Maybe
Yeah.
wait till November 1st, but Yeah, that's fine.
Do you want to share? Yeah, I think we should share. So we are, not only excellent YouTubers with a huge following, but we do have a pressure washing business here in Nashville, Tennessee, with a ton of team members that we love very dearly, and they have been, they are going to be given a Christmas bonus. Correct? That's a Christmas bonus, or is it just a separate?
They got
It's a fat bonus. Separate bonus.
Well, it'll end up being the bonus if they end up hitting it. But
so if we hit 1,000 subs, what do they get?
They get full-time team members make $1,000, and then halftime.
Isn't that something else?
Part-time.
Yeah. So it's like such a bittersweet. Hey, maybe wait to smash the subscribe.
No, just kidding.
Definitely smash the subscribe button. We want that.
Button so our team
they do a lot of work, man. They do a lot of work. Hey, the shorts that you see are not often us cleaning those things. Yes, and so, they are definitely generating content. They deserve this. They've worked hard over the course of a year. So
did you know,
definitely.
Josiah, did you know that if you have up to 1K subscribers, you are in the top 10% of YouTube channels?
I did not know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so
how is that possible?
Because there's a billion YouTube channels.
Wow.
But long story short, we're on our way to being the top 10% of YouTube channels. And
Let's go. Yeah, boy.
And it would not happen.
Stop.
It would not happen. Man, I wish I could show his face. Maybe we're going to have some cutouts from this week and make some others, and we need to have his beautiful face along with
Scott
his team.
should just peep his head in here.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we'll throw a picture in there. I got a picture of him with a mustache and long hair. He looks like Tarzan.
Ooh, man.
I think I can drop that inside here. I did. I was
a six pack.
That's what I'm saying. He's got he really does look like Tarzan. I mean, he looks like Tarzan.
And he won't be single for long.
No, after that picture, he definitely won't be.
For sure.
And he is on the market. So full disclosure,
not really. He's half and half. He's half and half.
What has happened in the last 2 weeks?
We might have that. Might be the show after the show.
This is so good.
Okay. Well,
so anyways, yes. Shout out to Scott. Shout out to Caleb. We really don't do much on this. They are the brains behind it. Dude.
Top 10%.
Yeah,
that makes me want to cry, man. I could cry.
Go ahead and cry.
So good.
Go ahead and cry. Hey, what? If I had to ask you a question of one of the top things that happens of why we have turnover inside the business, why you have team members that are on the team that may not have a clear vision, what do you think is the onset of that? And then also to follow up on that, how do you fix it? How do you resolve that? Because we're kind of we've had some transition this year, full disclosure. We've had transition this year. I would say it was a large % increase. Of course, there's variability. We want to understand why. But since we're in it, we kind of want to chat about it. Mm-hmm. What do you think you see inside of that?
Yeah, I think that's a multiplistic situation. I think that there's a lot of things going on, and it's not always as simple as it seems. Usually, if there's one thing, there's like a million other things. But I can tell you how to catch it early on, and that's with, providing an opportunity for the team to constantly be getting feedback on things, a performance-based evaluation where you can share with them expectations that you have with them, how they've been performing, and then also provide an opportunity for them to share with you things that are going on that they're seeing that you may not be fully aware of. So that's pretty cool. We do 2 times a year. We do an evaluation. It's a peer review. And so I remember this one guy, he was a BUDS instructor. And so you guys know, like Special Forces, BUDS, basic underwater demolition.
Similar. We're all BUDS in here.
What's up, bud?
Yeah.
But he's sharing with, this is a podcast, he's sharing with his audience how BUDS, they've structured this whole training. And at the very end, there's a swim test, but the swim test is not what most of the students think it is. And so basically there's a peer review. The classmates end up reviewing each other to say, hey, this guy is really good. I'm just pointing at you for no good reason. This guy's really good. He can pass all the physical fitness stuff, but I don't want him on my team. Mm-hmm. He's good at swimming. He can ruck. He can do push-ups. He can, he's calm under pressure. But the team doesn't trust him, the instructors will fail them on this swim test. And it has nothing to do with their ability to swim and stuff like that. So I wanted to create something similar for our team where just because someone can go out and clean, it doesn't necessarily mean they should be on the team. And so with this peer review, basically it's got a list of all these different questions on how they do in the field. Do they enjoy working with this person? Do they do all the behaviors? Do they represent the company well? If they had, so like we've got our mission, vision, values, and goals on there. Our values are humble, honest, and hardworking. There is a portion of this peer review that all the team members take about an individual. And it says, what is their most represented value? What do they represent the best? And then what do they represent the least?
I feel like I want to stop you really quick to just interject and say, I think that that's an important thing to note on, which would be if you don't have your mission statement yet, if you don't have, your core values, rather, should I say, that is a really good decision filter for how you hire and fire.
Yeah, it's so good.
And if you don't yet have that, I mean, there's things inside of what you're saying where it's all applicable, but let's start with what great customer just called me, Melinda White, man. Oh man, she is a beauty. She's so awesome. Yeah, but she's so awesome. I hope she hears me say it.
Why does she, we're talking about these type of conversations, but why is she awesome?
She is awesome because she's the type of customer that she will call as many times as it takes to get the point across. And believe it or not, I appreciate that. My wife knows Melinda White's name. That's how often she calls. And we're actually putting together some care packages. I'm almost certain she will not see this, but she's going to get one. She'll get a Browns, Yeti cup and stuff. There's some people that I think have gone above and beyond for us, and they just go to bat for you. And she's one of those ladies, man. She let us keep a yard sign in her yard for weeks, dude. For weeks. That's crazy.
I think she was like actually on the corner flipping it up and doing like tricks behind their backs and so forth. Yeah. We need more.
Anyways, to jump backwards, the way you're saying, I think it could also be set up in that, hey, we did develop this, but be aware those core values are a huge decision filter, and it's a good scoring mechanism.
It really
mechanism.
Is. And we should definitely try to jump into that, a little bit later on because we might have time for it. But yeah, so anyways, that we just provide an opportunity for the team to rank one another in a very honest way. It's a help me out here. Their names aren't on it, so it's a
anonymous. I almost said monotonous.
It's a monotonous review. It's an anonymous
Sometimes
review.
It's that way.
And then we also have them take the Enneagram test. And so inside of this, we're going to help them understand how they process stress and how they how can they recognize when they're operating in a healthy state and an unhealthy state. And so it's actually really cool. And so during this time, it really helps build them up and also helps them understand what we're trying to do.
It's good.
Yeah. And one of the questions is, we're in a conversation right now, Josiah, about performance management. Why in the world would we be talking about task-oriented habits as it relates to performance management?
Yeah. So there is a small section inside that review that talks about, the nuts and bolts of like, how do you clean, blah, blah, blah. But I would say 70-80% is about the individual and the types of decisions that they make, how they respond.
Yeah.
Because there's so much of like, anybody can clean. And like I was saying before, you don't want just someone who can clean on your team. You want someone who's really going to build to the culture of the team, and that should be protected.
Have you guys ever had a job where you woke up and thought, I have to go to work today?
Yeah.
That is not what we're trying to create here. And I believe that those decision filters, the core values, and how you would score on something like that will be preventative maintenance for having another team member go look at the schedule and I got to work with that guy today. Like that's not what we want. Right. Because pressure washing is, more or less kind of easy, in some ways, but building a strong culture where guys go, I cannot wait to wake up and go is what we're after.
What is the one thing that people, or we want to be identified with in our community as having what? We want to be the best pressure washers, the best roof cleaners, the best gutter cleaners. Are we trying to go for like, hey, we have the best services on the planet? Or are we trying to say, when you experience us, you just experience someone who loves you, cares about you, is going to get through the project no matter what difficulties and challenges that we go through.
You know, I think I've landed somewhere, and not that I'm in charge of branding our whole company right now, but I think I have landed somewhere where when you hire a company to do a job, you're either going to get someone that you're kind of questionable on, or you're going to get someone that you trust so much that you can go to work, not think about it, and just pay when you come home. I think that is the experience that I would want to give somebody. It's not a quick transaction. It's actually much more than that. How you communicate on the front end and during the job builds to the credibility of trust that you would have with a customer, so that they can just leave and come back on their own and not even have to worry. Because, you know, like sometimes people are on your property and you're like, I think I might want to take a day off of work for these guys moving the furniture in, you know?
Yeah.
Or, you know, instead of that, you want the type of people that's like, I don't even have to think about it. It's Browns.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, and one of the things you mentioned was the Enneagram. For those who have never heard of the Enneagram before,
dive into
can one of you guys share, like, what is the Enneagram?
Yeah. So the Enneagram is not satanic.
I thought it was. When I first went through the Enneagram, I thought it was black magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
It definitely looks like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I read a book. I was at a theological seminary, and they had me go through the Enneagram, and I was like, "You guys are pagans." And I promise you, I thought exactly the whole book I thought was like garbage, and because there was like all these lines.
For clarity,
Going to different numbers.
Google it. They have numbers in a circle, and all of them have lines drawn to another. So it kind of looks a little bit like a pentagram.
Yeah,
I believe is the term for it.
Yeah.
You guys are pagans.
And really the problem was me. I over spiritualized every single thing on this planet.
For
and as
sure.
a result, I couldn't learn from others. I was my own ecosystem. And so I made a lot of mistakes in my 47 years.
Had you just taken the Enneagram, you might have figured that out a little sooner. But go ahead and dive into that a little bit. I think that's a very good conversation.
I think the Enneagram test, if you guys haven't taken it, I definitely want to encourage you guys to take it. It's obviously a personality test that is going to range you from number 1 to number 9, and each number represents a unique personality. Inside of these personalities, it's going to reveal to you different types of strengths, different types of weaknesses, why you respond to certain things, how you respond to certain things, things to avoid, things to move towards. And so you're really going to exploit a lot of these shortcomings or these strengths based off of your personality. And I'm telling you what, it is so good. And if you're skeptical, you'll probably get the skeptical personality, which is like the 8. It's the nonconformist. But I would definitely say that go take the test and just read through it. You'll probably end up reading the results and be like, wow, that is so me.
Hey, and if you were looking for a place to take the test, do you have a website or anything that you would encourage?
Yeah, so you can just look up free Enneagram test, or you can buy one. I think they're pretty cheap. They're like $10-15. It's called the Enneagram Institute.
Yep.
And then you can just go there, take the test. It's got like 100 questions, and just be honest with yourself on all those questions and just take it.
And guys, if you're jumping in right now, I just wanted to let you all know that we are chatting a little bit about a bunch of things really, but trust and why we've had a little bit of transition this year, like more transition than normal. We're diving into the dissection of what we think that actually is. We want to know why. And right now, specifically, we're talking about the peer reviews that Josiah had put together, and we kind of take some Enneagrams. So if you've not yet seen that, be sure to go back and watch that because it'll make a little bit more sense. But
yeah, and once you go through it, there's an author actually out of Nashville. He pastors a Presbyterian church, and he wrote a book called Road Back to a Better You. It would be the book that I would recommend anybody that finds out what their personality types is. Then you go through it and you realize, hey, this is what a healthy version of me looks like, and this is what an unhealthy version of me looks like. And the reason it's so important to know like your healthy version and your unhealthy version is because wherever you are, people are experiencing wherever you are. And if you want to have a better culture, you don't start with your team members, you start with you, and you have to ask the question, what is going on in me that's bringing out the worst version of me at this time? How can I identify where I'm hungry at, where I'm angry at, where I'm tired at, where I'm frustrated, and then end up addressing those and be the best version of yourselves. Because when you get better, your entire company around you, your organization, your marriage, your kids, everything becomes better around you as a result. That's why it's so important.
There's also you can have your spouse take it as well, and it will tell you how
That's interesting.
And how like the weaknesses that your personality and her personality.
I think my wife
say
would
like,
nail
hey,
that.
this is kind of like a bad spot for you guys to be in. So try to avoid these areas.
Hey, and if you're going through a difficult time right now with your spouse, and it's just worth talking about, is that there's things called a spouse survey where you can end up saying, hey, how can I be a better husband? How can I be a better wife? And then just hand it to them. You're not doing it to do like an implant where you're hoping that they end up asking you back to do the same thing. It's basically, I want to be the best version of me. Here's a survey. Please let me know what I can stop doing and what I can start doing. And that's inside of what's called a spouse survey. If you're interested in getting a spouse survey, I'll make sure that our boy Scott has it. And so you can go to social@brownspressurewashing.com, ask for a spouse survey, and we'll send it over to you so you can strengthen your marriage.
That's good.
That's so good. Well, one of the reasons that I personally think that we've seen a little bit of turnover, this is just me, I could be wrong, but I think a part of the vision of where we were going, where we are and where we're headed could have been lost a little bit in translation. And it brings me to the question of how does a good leader create vision and like hold vision and then create mission, core value statements? I think that's a question directly for you.
Yeah, it's a good question. And so, we are
Would you guys agree with that? That could be a potential?
I would say maybe 2 or 3, but yes. But I would say there's maybe 2 or 3 different things. One I would say is the 5 levels of leadership, or 5 laws by Jonathan Maxwell. Whenever you have someone that steps out of a position into a new position, they start on level 1, regardless of what level they were before that position. And so I think in our company, we had 2 team members, you guys, step into new coaching type positions, which means you have to win permission to coach everyone all over again. And so I think that was there. And then I would say there's definitely a failure not keeping the vision, writing it down, making it clear, and continually rallying your team around while we're building a wall. What's this thing for? I don't even know why we do what we do, because we don't know why we do. We end up questioning why we do. And next thing you know, everybody's going different directions.
Well, and then it does just feel like pressure washing.
Well, that gets into trust. And,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, if your team doesn't trust you, you won't have a team for very long. And that comes down with providing systems and security for your team members, which would be ultimately our responsibility, is to say, hey, here's the system. And if you do the system, here's the security that we're going to take care of you and make sure you can provide for your family.
And I would say, just to drop a little book recommendation in there, I'm currently going through it right now, and it is really nailing me. It's Trust by Henry Cloud. If you lead a team, and I would say that whether that be in a business or you coach a sports team or you have a family with, even just a wife, but a wife and children, I think that's a team. And I think that you would lead it. If you lead a team, I would say 100% pick up that book. Like, just go get it now. It is.
If you
the
have
crux to
relationships
everything.
in life,
For sure.
any kind of relationship,
For sure. It's so good. And it nails so many failures inside of trust that you're like, I feel like he wrote this book about me. I'm like, how do you know me,
like, I don't trust
Mr.
this
Cloud?
guy.
Well, I mean, everything, it's not just business, it's life, like it's everything around us is built on trust. And if we can trust somebody with something, you can give them something. But if you can't trust somebody with something, it's like you don't want to give them something. And so one of the questions is like, hey, how do we build trust? Is there still questions on the mission?
No,
vision?
I think that's what I would say is, how do you build consistent and honest communication to the team? Like, what are actually some action steps I feel like that I need to even hear inside of this conversation right now to build that, to bridge that gap and start getting that trust? How can people do that?
You know what I learned from Alex Hormozy? He gives everything away for free.
For sure.
Do you know why?
Because when he makes an
trust.
ask,
What is it?
builds
build
trust.
trust.
Yep. But specifically, he's also there to make money.
Right.
And if he's giving everything away for
Influence.
free, he's getting influence. He's building trust. But I heard him say this past week. Nobody does what you tell them to do. They need accountability to do it.
Right.
That's why they'll end up selling their company to me, because I'll actually do what
For sure.
I'm learning
Right.
to do. And so there are content creators on YouTube that you can consume their content, and they literally are giving you specific, do this, get a loan, buy this equipment, spend money on marketing, and start serving through these services, and then keep doing it, focus on your branding. And they're going step by step by step. They're giving it all away for free. And they're the guys that end up,
they acquire the acquisitions happen. I mean, he's not, if you don't know who Alex Hormozy is, first of all, if you're on YouTube and you're watching us and you don't know that, I don't know what is going on. But let me say this, go look him up. His story is incredible. He's told it on multiple podcasts, but the dude is doing over 85 million a year with gym launch alone, I think, or a collective portfolio. Either way, the point is, dude has a game plan. It works. He proves it every day, and he tells you how to do it. And he gives books away for nothing.
And the books are not general. They're specific.
Well, they're very specific. Yeah, $100 million offer. If you've not read that yet, it's very applicable to pressure washing. I would say it's applicable to anything, but especially home service. Go get it. He's got another one called $100 Million Leads. And just to say, one of the reasons I think he gives is ultimately whether this be in an acquisition or whether it be in, hey, I want to sell this book for $10 a piece, people will buy it because he's already gathered a following that trusts him and knows that he gives good content. So when he does make an ask, they will do it.
So how does that relate to our team members when it comes to building trust in an operations or inside the team? What are some things that we can do to build trust among our team members?
You know, ironically, accountability builds trust. You know, holding the team accountable. Just before we jumped on the show, Josh says, "Why aren't you wearing a Browns hat?" And I'm like, dang, I should be wearing a Browns hat. And I didn't respond well.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, dang, I trust Josh even more now because he loves me enough and he cares enough about what we're doing here to hold me accountable. And so I think that holding people accountable is a huge trust effort.
Would you
doing what you say you're going to do?
Would you make the argument that the accountability portion is the ask? Meaning, if you start with the accountability, it could be perceived as this guy is rude. Is the word I'll choose to use. Where you just step into a leader. This is an honest question. You just step into a leadership role and you start with just the accountability hammer. Like, would that be perceived as you didn't give anything? And, you know, because you guys have years to be able to, the interaction that I just saw is awesome because you spoke really honestly about your feelings of the situation. And he said, that was silly. And then the podcast started.
I actually used our first H.
It was like your couple gets out of the car and goes into church.
That's super true. We'd be walking up to the door that way. No, but let me say this. I feel like it's important to note that he had the permission to say that, which is why you recognized, oh, that's actually accountability. I trust Josh. I have the rapport. I feel like the accountability is good, but is that not the permission that needs to be earned? Or am I wrong on that? I'm completely okay to be wrong on it. That's an honest question to both of you right now. I don't want to say let's not hold people accountable. Yeah. You know that's not what I'm saying.
Well, it's really, accountability is a difficult thing and so easy as well. You cannot have good accountability if you don't have very clear expectations.
Agreed.
There's a lot I'm chewing on, and I'm just trying to process everything.
I want you to process out loud. That's what I'm doing right now with these questions. I'm literally processing.
I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Well, we've talked about why is it important to have clear mission, vision, values, and goals. And if we can agree upon where we're going, what we're doing, how we get there, then we can look at it and say, hey, and this is what I was going to say. When I first started the company, I didn't know what hat to wear. I had these old brown shirts that were white, and I put the little over the city, and it said Browns on it. It's like 7 years
disgusting.
ago. That was back when we did window cleaning. And I didn't know what hat to wear, and I didn't want to upset Tennessee fans. I didn't want to upset Volunteer fans. I didn't want to upset the
Alabama
different
fans.
colleges or colors.
We did want to upset them.
And so what I did was I ended up. Do you know what our first Browns hat was?
Yeah, it was.
No, you don't know.
Yeah, I do.
What was it?
It was the Memphis.
It was Memphis. You nailed what I was thinking. Good job. I'm
Not
gonna give
just
you
a hat rack.
five.
Not just
It's not a hat rack either.
All right. So when you start your company, this is super important. When you start your company, branding is massively important. And we're going to be discussing branding next week. So you're going to want to make sure you like, subscribe, and show up next week because we're going to get into branding next week.
Branding's going to be
It's
a good
everything.
conversation.
But I knew that from the beginning, but I didn't have the money or the idea of branding at that time, as far as like hats and boots and what are our pants, how do we show up? And it's like, we're starting a YouTube channel. And I started thinking like this, man, we're starting it like I started a pressure washing company 7 years ago.
That's good.
What are the things that need to be transitioned to become a real YouTube channel? And I'm like, well, we should probably have uniforms. We should probably have the right stuff done the right way continually. And then that's where we get into, okay, how do longs are they supposed to be shot? How do shorts supposed to be shot? How do we utilize our time when we're not spending all 5 times 5, 25 hours on a Monday? And it's like, we've got to figure out a better way to do this right and maximize our time. So that's something about how you build your company, because if you're watching, you're either my friend or Josiah's or Brady's, or you're trying to grow your own company, and you need to recognize that if you want to grow and scale, you need a brand.
Yeah.
You need to go ahead and say, this next winter, I'm going to spend some money in getting my branding right. My truck's going to be sexy. There was a song about that, but you're going to make a nice truck, your wraps, your logos, your vehicles, your Instagram, your Facebook, your TikTok, everything is going to be branded. And if that sounds like a lot of work, just watch some YouTube videos, watch us. We will help you see what we've done so you can do it in your own business.
That's good. That's great. I feel like we are also inside of a season of, has anybody, and I don't know, anybody else out there ever been in a season of like just total self-reflection? This last week for me was huge self-reflection because I was able to disconnect a little bit from work. And I'm going to share something really personal right now. I disconnected from work. I was home with my family because if you didn't hear earlier, if you're just jumping in, we just had a baby. He's awesome. I love him. But
Big,
disconnected. Strong like bull.
Strong like
bull, dude. For sure, he's strong like bull. But with that came, very little sleep, all this different stuff, that's natural and happens. But on top of that, I was able to kind of disconnect from work. So my mind was not super consumed with that. And I haven't taken a vacation in 2 years. It's literally like I've not done that. So even though I wasn't sleeping, it kind of felt a little bit like a vacation, and it was kind of nice. And my wife was very appreciative of it. And the personal aspect that I will share is I feel like I got one of the first hits of dopamine that I've had in a long time being home. Meaning I love what we do and I love being here, but the self-reflection that I'm sharing is I got my first like little dopamine hit of joy by being home and looking at my family and going, this is actually my why. And I feel like we've been in the hustle and bustle, and sometimes it may not look like things are being produced, but we're working like 70 hours and our family's just suffering. But this week was really good. And I mean, I literally told Jennifer, I said, I feel the happiest I've felt in a while just coming home. And it actually refreshed my mind. So my self-reflection is like, I like looked at all the things I've done this year, some good, most not so good, I actually believe. And I'm like, oh man, there's some stuff that needs to happen. And taking that week away gave me the opportunity to have self-reflection where I can see where I've failed my family. I can see where I've failed my business partners. I can see where I failed the team that I'm leading. And I just needed a moment to stop and actually look at myself. And when you're running and grinding and hustling so much, you never get the opportunity to diagnose yourself. And I feel like I had that this week. And so I would say where does self-reflection come in to leading a team for you guys? When you're leading, like, I mean, how do you continually look at your leadership style? Do you have time blocked out for that, where you do that every day, or, you know, once a quarter, once a month, whatever it is? Because I feel like I just learned that is 100% necessary.
It's good.
Yeah, it's almost like
that was a heavier style,
no,
but it's like,
it's good. I think that the level that you got to was a direct result of taking some serious time away from what was distracting your ability to look at yourself. And I would say that the men around you, or the people around you, your friends, I mean, they've got first dibs to show you kind of a self-reflection.
And boy, do they take it.
And they definitely take advantage of the negative a lot faster than the positive, because we're talking about both here, right? Self-reflecting on like your strengths,
for sure,
and also your weaknesses.
For sure.
But for some reason, the weaknesses end up taking like, oh, what could I be doing better? And it's kind of like guilt is such a powerful thing too. I shouldn't be doing this, blah, blah, blah. But like we so overlook like our strengths as well. And like, okay, how do I recognize what I'm good at, and how do I get myself into a position where I'm more so using my strengths instead of focusing so much on doubling my weakness? But I feel like the men around you, or the people around you, really can highlight that easily.
I'd love to call an audible. I don't think maybe you were anticipating this, maybe you weren't, but let me say two things. One, if you're leading a team, leading a business, or even just leading yourself, know that self-reflection is very important. I know what it feels like to be like, I can't go do this thing with the family because I have to work. If I'm not there, if I'm not doing these things, it's not happening. And sometimes that's actually true. And sometimes that is either an insecurity or a fear that you're literally you're living in a fear like that. So a framework would kind of be necessary to help get you to a place. And Josh, I don't think you're expecting this, but would you share the framework you shared with me? Will you share that framework?
Which framework?
The one you just shared this morning from your morning devotional, because that is it in all things self-reflection. I think that's it in all things self-reflection.
Yeah, this actually comes from Curtis Honeycutt's vision map that he did with me this year. And Curtis, you're probably not watching because you had a baby a few minutes ago, and we saw a beautiful picture of your son. But he had me write out, like, what are the things that really matter to your life? Like, if everything was stripped away, and what is the non-negotiable? What really matters when Josh is in the room? The number one thing I wrote down. Do y'all know what the number one thing was?
To be present.
Presence is number one. And so, like, if you were to, strip everything away from my head and say, hey, Joshua, what is the thing that matters most to you in life? It's wherever I am, I want to be all there. I don't want my body to be there and then my mind and my spirit not to be there, because there's times in our lives that our body is there, but our mind is not there. Yeah. And then there's times that our mind might be there, but our body is kind of hungry or tired, or we're frustrated at somebody. And so as a result, the way that we process y'all have heard of the HULT? Halt. You know what it means? Mm-hmm. Don't make big decisions when you are
hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
Yeah. And so,
it's so good.
And so you have to.
You won't be making any decisions anytime soon, Brady.
It's going to be a minute, man. That's a really good little, what do they call those?
So when you're angry,
acronyms,
that's a framework.
Acronym.
I think it's also a framework.
Yeah, it is. It's good.
When your body is hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you're not going to make optimal decisions with your mind and your spirit.
That's super good.
And so if I put your body here and put your mind here and put your spirit here, you ultimately are three in one. I believe every human being has a mind, has a body, and has a spirit. Our spirit ultimately is what other people experience as a result of whether or not we've been forgiven or we've not experienced forgiveness. And this is where I believe the human heart has to experience forgiveness from God for our own personal sins, so we have the ability to forgive others for things that they've done to us in our lives. When we are around people, we are either at peace and at rest, or we are stressed and we're in battle and we're at odds.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason that Jesus came was that he could set us free inside of our mind, inside of our body, and inside of our spirit, where those three end up becoming, that little triune that makes up who we are. And so the framework that I gave this morning was, what do you feed in your mind? What do you feed in your body? And then what do you feed in your spirit? And if we have a gratitude list and we're giving thankfulness and we're waking up just like, God, I can't believe you allowed me to be here today. You're looking outside at the stars. You're like present. You feel the wind. You're like, man, you've been so good to me. And like, this doesn't matter what you've experienced. You can have experienced being taken advantage of. You can have, man, look at even the folks that have gone through stuff in the wars that we're watching all over the place. You can have peace in the midst of whatever's taking place inside of our lives. And that comes into a place of just having presence.
That'd
Whatever
be so
it is,
great
just giving
to have
thankfulness.
that. That's a hard thing to accomplish, to have peace in the midst of things that you're living in fear about. Man, that'd be incredible to just nail.
Viktor Frankl nailed the book when it says man's search for meaning. And it's like, whatever suffering, he lost his wife, his children, everyone's dying around him inside of the Nazi concentration camp.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can he have peace in the midst of persecution, starvation, and the things that you would say are the most precious? Imagine coming home and all your kids are no longer there. Viktor Frankl had a framework that said, my life will not be in vain because I'm going to respond from this tragedy in a way that honors them. And it's just looking at life bigger than what happens in life, to treat the people around you with something greater. Because at the end of the day, we're all going to pass. But to be present is ultimately the greatest desire that I have. And not just to be present, but to have the mind of Christ in our presence. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want someone to experience Josh in present. I want people to experience Christ, which is a constant crucifixion of the soul. If anybody wishes to be my disciple, they must first count the cost. They must deny themselves, pick up their cross, and follow him. And that's not back in Sunday school. That's not back at the side of your bed when mom or grandma or dad was talking to you. It's today. Did you crucify your own desires and say, I'm going to live for God today and not for myself? And then that goes into who owns your business. Is your business your business, or is it really a stewardship? And then when we say business, we're talking about vendors, customers, and team members. That makes up your business. How do I treat them? Do they exist for me, or do I exist for them inside the way of our framework? And so that's kind of what I would hope to be pursuing for the rest of my life.
That's so good, man. Well, we are wrapping up here. We're at 9:42.
Is there anything on this list that we feel like we need to share for somebody that is trying to grow their leadership? This is the last little bit.
I was going to say, and not really inside of the notes that we have, but I will say that if you are leading a team and maybe you're struggling with some of the things that maybe I had just mentioned, two great books that I mentioned earlier. If you're watching this on the replay, I'm sorry, you're going to hear it twice, but Trust by Henry Cloud. If you're just now jumping in, Trust by Henry Cloud, such a great book. Winning the War in Your Mind by Craig Groeschel.
Winning the War Inside Your Mind.
Yeah, Winning the War Inside Your Mind. That's another really good one. And even if you don't have a ton of time, he's got a 40-minute sermon on YouTube that you can catch, and I'd say it's worth it. Realigning your thoughts, the self-reflection. If you don't know who you are and where you're going, you definitely can't tell a team where you're going. And outside of that, I would say next week, this is the last of our leadership development series, like you were mentioning. Next week, we're jumping right into branding. I feel like at some point, I promise, we're going to talk about pressure washing and surface cleaners and estimates, and we do, but it's hard. It's what consumes our mind is how good we're being inside of the leadership, because it's kind of everything. So
how would you sum up the leadership conversation over the last few weeks?
I think that to sum everything up, it would be first lead yourself, then lead others. I think it's constantly going back to, what are you doing with yourself? What are you doing with your own habits and decisions that you're making? And then that ultimately affects the rest of your team.
Yeah. It's good.
Hey, and Truth Seeker, I actually meant to mention something to you. You said, hey, so Truth Seeker says, good morning. Sorry, I'm late. Putting out fires on a Monday morning, smiley face. I'll catch the replay. Definitely catch the replay, because a lot of what we had chatted about inside of putting out fires and things like that, that is the hustle and bustle and slowing down some. I really think you'll enjoy this episode if you end up watching it all the way through. So please do that.
Yeah. One thing that helped me inside of one of 1,000 things that's helped me over the course of my life is I did a life plan with Michael Hyatt years ago, probably 15 years. I still have a copy of that. It's in a PDF form. If you've never just taken the time to sit down, I would send that to you for free. I own the rights to be able to use it, and I can share it with you. If you'll go to social@brownspressurewashing.com and just type in there, hey, I'd like to get the life plan. If you'd like to get the spouse survey, I'll make sure that's available, and you can end up getting that sent to you, where you can create a life worth waking up for. Because if you know why you're doing what you're doing, it can give you energy versus suck the energy out of your life.
That's good. Well, guys, until next week, we'll be talking again about branding next week. You're going to want to make it. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button. We love all of you. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.